Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. This is your most inspirational show and the point of convergence for the greatest minds. My name is Albert Ocran, doing this with the support of the virtual academic board chaired by Comfort, with support from Matthew and the entire crew. On this beautiful day, I matriculate you into a week in which I trust that you will excel spiritually, professionally, financially, emotionally, socially, and in every single area of your life. And if you will give it your very best, just simply say amen. All right, so Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and powered by your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. The broadcast is led and partnered by some of the finest brands in this country committed to the development of our human capital. Let me thank MTN Pulse, Just Be, the Enterprise Group, Enterprise Your Advantage, UMB Bank, UMB Speed Up, DigiBank, Let's Go, and of course our print media partner, the Graphic Business. So our theme for 2021 is simply repositioning, and we've had some conversations around the whole concept of repositioning. Today we want to zero down on the professional side of our lives and why things are not the same as they used to be and possibly will never be the same again. So in this two-part series, we want to explore the changing world of work. In part one, we'll look at how much the world of work has changed, and in part two, we'll look at the skills that you would require to survive and thrive and excel in this new field or world of work. My guest for tonight to help with this discussion, Maximus Ametorgoh, CEO of Pop-Out, regular resource person and faculty at the Virtual University. Maximus, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Reverend.
I hear our world is gone. Somebody says it's gone.
Yes, it's gone, far gone.
All right. We'll be joined along the line by Ernest Boadu, who's a senior banking executive in the UK. Ernest, if you can hear me, welcome to Springboard, the Virtual University.
Thank you, Albert. I'm excited to be part of the show tonight.
I am told that our world has disappeared and is gone forever. Will that be the case?
Absolutely. We've seen a massive revolution. So yes, our world is no longer how it used to be previously, and we all need to sort of buckle up and move with the flow.
I'm going to come to you very shortly, Ernest, for some perspectives on the global stage and what is happening in Europe and so on. But let me start with you, Maximus.
Yes.
So the foundation of this conversation, maybe let me start with a report by McKinsey Global Institute in 2017, because very often when we talk about the world of work, many people think it is COVID related. So let me deliberately move back to 2017 and the McKinsey Global Institute report that said 14% of the global labor force, approximately 375 million people, need to transition to new occupational areas or categories or learn new skills altogether to stay employed. And that is largely being driven by automation. They go on to give areas where the opportunities will open. But let's start this conversation by talking about what changed, what moved, what triggered.
I think with as a human institution, we evolve all the time. And then we always follow the path that leads to what we call a presumed future, that want things to be better, more efficient, more cost effective, and then speed is driving the innovation, leading to this particular presumed future. Now, for work is an activity you engage in or a role you play, either assigned by yourself or somebody, for an end result. It can be for the fulfillment of it, for the funds of it, or the fund of it, for you to survive. And as a labor force, if you are required to produce a certain result, you must also have the requisite skill set, or you'll be able to use a tool that will be assigned to achieve that, or be able to produce the output that you have been assigned. Now with innovation and with all the creativity, with all the companies trying to do things in a more efficient, new ways, you, the labor force or the tool that is being used or a resource being used, you must have that cutting edge skill set that your employer will require of you to produce the output that they want from you, and of course for a remuneration that is consistent or that you require of them. So in this current state, when everything is being formatted with technology, things being digitized, things being automated, because something that you do repeatedly, right, you are supposed to gain some experience so that it becomes easier. Now machines are replacing that process, and then you are supposed to either man the machine or be part of the processes of managing the algorithm that is driving the machine. So it is becoming very difficult. In fact, it has become like an organism that you cannot find the shape and form of it, but you're seeing that the world is evolving towards a future that humans may even be taken out of it. The traditional skill set will not be needed again, that you need some soft skills that will transcend the current time that you are living in. So if you learn agriculture, knowing how to plant seeds using cutlasses, now there's a machine that can plow the land, measure, keep the distances between the crops, because maybe there's a scientific research that shows that crops must have a certain distance so that it will aid in fertilization, and then when you are spraying the pesticides and when you are managing the soil quality and all that. So the whole world of work is changing from the hard skills to the soft skills, and technology is driving that. And we are yet to understand the whole scope of the requirement in that world.
The funny thing, and I like the note of which you ended, we are yet to understand the whole scope, because sometimes when we think that we've gotten a full hang of it, then it escalates to another level. Let me just add that this was before COVID came to further accentuate or exacerbate what was an obvious trend across the globe. Let me go to Ernest Boadu, a senior banking executive in London, who's been involved with several projects that involve high-end automation and therefore the use of technology in ways that we've not known before. Ernest, how significantly has the world of work changed, and what should viewers and listeners be concerned about as the drivers of this change?
Absolutely. So we've had a sort of a massive acceleration of the revolution that we're seeing anyway. And if we look at the pre-COVID time, we've now had sort of what we call a double disruption, because there was now lots of firms uptaking new technology and automating a lot of the mundane tasks that they had. But what we also have is a change in demographic. If you look at the demographics across Europe and Africa, the way the diaspora send money back home has changed. We've got mobile money. You've got a whole lot of new demographic that just want to be able to access services, access products in just in time. So previously, just in time was probably 2 weeks. Now, just in time is a matter of seconds or minutes. So we are seeing some of these core facets of our society begin to drive some of the new change that we have now. And we are also seeing a lot of emerging markets in Europe and also in Africa now. What you would have as your sort of your standard bank is no longer anymore. Now we've seen a drive of digital banks across Europe. And I'm sure we'll begin to see most of these in Ghana very soon. So these have been some of the trigger points that is driving sort of the uptake in technology and the disruption to the skills that we usually have within our day-to-day jobs.
Ernest, you mentioned a double disruption, first occasioned by technology uptake and then further exacerbated by COVID. And you said this is demand-driven, largely younger demographics who want things done very, very quickly. And as long as the demand is there, the supply should be there. let's talk about what kind of skills gaps are emerging. Because, again, juxtapose the report by McKinsey against that by the World Economic Forum, which we've been tracking for quite a while now. And it says that 94% of business leaders expect their employees to pick up new skills on the job. And that's a very high uptick on the number from recent years. 94% of business leaders in every field, entertainment, banking, insurance, finance, they expect their staff to take on board new skills. And over 40% of them, or in 40% of the instances, they are saying those skills must be acquired within the next 6 months or there'll be trouble. And I speak to that.
Absolutely. So we could have a case where you have a programmer that is, a couple of years ago is used to programming in a certain language. Now that programmer needs to be able to program or speak to a number of languages. You've got Python, you've got Java, you've got Ruby. So if you train in as a Java programmer, and there needs to be a drive and adoption of certain languages, you are actually underqualified for that role. And so we are beginning to see lots of people who are in roles that are probably underqualified, and firms now need to begin to upskill their staff. And also, as we begin to see the uptake of new technology, firms also need their employees to have what we call sort of the social intelligence aspect of things. Because now if services have changed and everything is demand driven by your new demographic, you need to have that sort of social intelligence begin to adapt rapidly to a changing environment. So your resiliency in this time is extremely important. So these are some of the occasions where we are seeing a skills gap between what was known to be a very good role previously to what we see now within the world of work.
Let's take a minute to break down the issue of social intelligence for the benefit of the person listening and hearing this term for the very first time. You touch on resilience, but give us a better overview of social intelligence. And from the more practical point of view, what does it mean and how does it reflect in the lives of ordinary people?
I mean, simply put, being aware of your environment and be aware of the emotions of people around you. And we've seen in the last few years greater emphasis on mental health. And so some of these are some of the things that come in. So if you are speaking to a customer who is probably in Europe and you are delivering a service in Ghana, you need to be able to understand their cultural perspective and begin to give them the service that they require. So these are some of the sort of examples when we speak of sort of social intelligence. And it's becoming extremely pivotal to the way we deliver services to customers. Especially if I go back again to my demographic, where you've got a lot of young people who may not have that patience, who may not have that sort of resilience. So it's important that we, as sort of product developers or as service givers, really understand this sort of demographic and to be able to socially be in tune with them as we deliver services to them.
Maximus, Ernest talks about programmers, talks about product designers and so on. Yeah. But listening to him, what he's describing is relevant in the passport office, it's relevant in church, it's relevant in parliament, it's relevant wherever you go. He talks about social intelligence. I get the impression that, listen, if the demographic he's describing is young people, technologically savvy, they know what they need, they know where they can find it instantly, and they are also on social media. If he talks about social intelligence and he talks about mental health, ability to appreciate cultural perspectives and so on, it just also means that even the communication, any word spoken out of 10 can trigger a response on social media that could put your company in a very difficult position.
Exactly.
Hence the need for new skills. Can we speak to that? The social intelligence bit.
Yes, I think the human nature needs to be, how to call it, re-engineered for the new world of work.
The orientation, you mean?
Exactly. So the orientation, because you're going to interact with people. Now, if machines are going to replace the human labor, it means that the machines must learn how to behave like humans. So with the social understanding, you can help program that behavior into softwares, into algorithms, so that when I go on social media, when I post something, the system is able to pick my social behavior or understanding or context, so they can expose more content to me. Now, companies that do not understand that social construct, they are going to find it difficult interacting with people, right? Because the emotional interaction, the social interactions, and what they call, for example, conversational marketing. Somebody wants to buy, but they are not just going to click a buy button. They need a conversation around what they want to buy. Now, if you have somebody at your call center who doesn't know how to interact with people online, because what we are doing is you are speaking through text, right? So if I'm conversing with you, I'm supposed to sound intelligent, smart, and then offer that customer service with some resemblance of emotion, even in my writing. Now, if companies don't build that skill set into their people, or the worker who doesn't develop that social skill set into their competence, they may not be relevant in the future. Because that interaction or that engagement online, which is required in the new world of work, has to be built into them.
So if I understand you right, what you're saying is that the person who has gone to his Legon KNUST, his or a Legon KNUST, Winneba Central, Ashesi, whatever.
Yeah.
They've gotten a job, they are doing it so far, so good.
Yeah.
Suddenly they find that increasingly there's some tension between what they know and how they've done the work and how the work is being required.
Exactly.
Suddenly they are told, okay, so this whole month you work from home. Now suddenly you need to be able to independently deal with situations and work with systems and networks and respond to the needs of your clientele in real time.
Yeah.
And you're saying that sometimes in that situation, it requires more than just the technology. It's also the social understanding to be able to anticipate their needs.
Exactly.
And
there
meet their needs.
must be a personality behind the communications. You are not just throwing text at you. How are you? I'm fine. I want to buy this product. But how you say it, how you approach the language, what they call speech texting. So whatever I'm saying, there must be some emotion. There must be some seriousness.
These are all new skills that a person may not have acquired.
Exactly. You will not learn it in your marketing class, or you will not learn it in your finance class or accounting class, because you are learning just the hard facts. But how you interface with the person, the customer, requires a social skill. And that social skills must help you to be able to, offer the service within the context that the person, the customer can relate to. And then that creates that emotional connection. If you don't have that skill set, for example, if you pick social media, you realize that people who are very active, who are very influential on social media, have that master skill set to be able to connect with people in the way they talk, how they share their ideas, how they converse with people, how they engage with the people. And it's a required skill.
And when it comes to social media and how companies should even interface with it and how their inability to understand it and work well with it is creating a challenge, because it's assumed that because of COVID, everyone should engage with digital media. But without the right skills, I presume that it could be very counterproductive.
Exactly.
I mean, in that regard. Ernest, let's talk about tension. What are the tensions that arise as a result of the gap that we see in skills required and skills offered? What are the tensions that arise as a result of this gap?
Over the years, throughout my consulting work, you tend to see that when there is a misalignment of skills, you then have sort of the issue of product development being slower to the market. So you have delays in product development because you can't really adjust quite quickly to the demand of your customers. And so you do have this delay in key products that you want to release to the market, because your competitors who probably do have employees with the right skill set are able to adjust quickly to the demands of the market. And so if you do have that skills misalignment within your firm, you would have key delays in your product development, which will then impact your operational costs. And so you do have sort of these knock-on effects where you will have delays in releasing products to the market, which will cause a lot of operational costs. But also you would tend to have a lot of staff turnover, because you will be employing people who want to advance in their roles but do not have the necessary support with the organization, and therefore they would rather leave to pursue other interests somewhere else. So these are some of the things that we are seeing. But more importantly, if we do have these skills misalignment, then there is also the growing gap between the high earners and the low earners. So then you do have low skilled workers still, struggling, and then you have another social problem here, because then your those who are highly skilled will continue to earn more, as we see in Europe, will continue to earn more. Anyone with those skills will earn more, and those lower skilled individuals. So then you have a gap or you have issues with sort of poverty and all sorts of things.
Maximus, listening to Ernest talk about the tensions, I just can relate to every single line of them. He talks about slow response to opportunity. He talks about pace of goods to market or products to market. And I mean, I'm sure that everything that we say can be also interpreted from the perspective of those who are not into products but into services.
Yeah.
So your responses and your solutions will come out slower than the competition,
Right.
and you will continually be edged out. As a result, some staff will leave, your operational cost will go up. But the part that I'm sure many people are listening to is the widening gap between the higher earners and the lower earners,
Yes,
because
the money.
those who know how to do these things and who can respond faster will keep rising in the business or in the organization, and those who do not have the skills to be able to operate in a tech-driven, fast-changing, socially dynamic world will keep asking, who moved my cheese?
Exactly.
Max, speak to that one.
So one example is Nokia. Nokia was like a top brand, and everybody owned a Nokia, whether you were the low end or the high end. And then they had a range of, product specs. Now, when the CEO was asked why the brand or the company collapsed or lost to their competition, he said they didn't do anything wrong, right? But I'm sure they stuck to a certain culture within the company that we have to serve everybody's interest within the mobile market space. So they're producing handsets for everybody. When the Apples were developing their own hardware and software to match it, Google also developed their Android system so that people can use it on any brand of phone. Nokia was still stuck in their ways, and all of a sudden they were kicked off the market. Now you had also Yahoo Messenger, for example. The developers, they moved on when they suggested something like the WhatsApp concept to the Yahoo management. They didn't believe that it was the right time, and then they moved on to create the WhatsApp. The WhatsApp became bigger, then they sold it to Facebook. Facebook, when Rupert Murdoch, who owned MySpace, was asked about Facebook, said Facebook was a flash in the pan. Then you realize when Facebook started growing, they wanted to buy it. Then they started using Facebook social plugins onto MySpace, and the MySpace died. Now Facebook is a giant. So you, as a company, you must always lead your own evolution. And Facebook is good at doing that. They've created so many products and features based on what their customers are using. And it's because they have people within the company who know that if you don't change something, a competition will come and kill your business. And Mark Zuckerberg understands that because he has been able to disrupt a lot of industries, and that's what is keeping that company.
When I come back from this break, we'll take what you've said to the next level, because the bigger question that we need to answer, the report from Deloitte's 2017 Global Human Capital Trends says that 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will not exist in 2025. That's 4 years' time. Almost half of the biggest companies we are seeing today will not exist in 4 years' time. And then it bases that on the fact that 52% of the Fortune 500 companies from 20 years ago, the year 2000, are no longer with us.
Exactly.
What they are saying simply is that companies that you are seeing right now that you are thinking they are doing well will disappear.
Exactly.
And you seem to be suggesting that they could be doing the right thing or not doing anything wrong. Let me put it differently. They could be there not doing anything wrong and still disappear.
Exactly.
When I come back, we'll talk about whether it applies to churches, to educational institutions, to small businesses, and even to governments. This is Springboard, a virtual university, discussing the changing world of work. And we started by just looking at what are the triggers of this change. But as we've gone on, we've come to the very crux of the issue, the fact that without a certain different kind of thinking, your organization may simply disappear. Let's go for a brief break. When we come back, let's find out what's the way forward. Please don't go away.
Abrabo, you were late yesterday, and today too you are late. What is wrong with you?
Kat, my wife is standing outside there. She needs money.
Ebimu da so tititim remu. Enti wonya daji enye wadwuma. Se madofo no mebusuafo nye sika ye bibia. Ni UMB speed up na dibu ami no. Dwumadie bi te say contact sync wo so. It is so UMB account. Na wo me contact so dia. Metimi manu sika wo baby bia. Memre ho kra. Na se wo beti oboso ho na den. Na me de mia. Se si adie, min chinchin se me ye bibia biemo. Mitumi bi salon, min yansi hu wo me UMB mobile savings wallet ni so. Mitumi to insurance, to credit egu me phone so. Me sa so di tua me bills bia. Mitumi iska wo UMB ATM bia so amin kra card bia. Wo betumi ahyehyɛ wo mre ene nkita wodie. E wo UMB speed up kwan pana so. UMB speed up. Digi Bank. Let's go.
Your smartphone is just a phone until you have the Advantage app. This is your power to know more and do more. With a few instructions and a tap to send, you will be sorted out within minutes. Take advantage of our app. Buy a policy from any of our subsidiaries. Request for a quote, make a claim, and check your statement. What's more, you can also get health tips, traffic information, and find garages and more. Download the Advantage app on Google Play and Apple Store now. Take Advantage. Here's to over 95 years of trust.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, discussing today the changing world of work. And this broadcast is brought to you by your Superstation Joy 99.7 FM and, of course, Springboard Roadshow Foundation. We also are on YouTube and on Facebook. I would like to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel for some of the exciting videos that we've posted out there and just enjoy them and give us feedback about how well you're enjoying the variety, the behind the scenes ones, the inspirational ones, and then of course, Springboard, your virtual university. Choose your own playlist and then watch what suits your preference. So before we went for the break, we're exploring how companies can suddenly find themselves on the fringe. And Maximus used the examples of Nokia and MySpace against Facebook. Ernest, bring this down to the level of the ordinary person playing the business field or not-for-profits or governmental organizations or any operation. How are the changes in the world of work putting pressure on both the organization and on the individual to respond?
Thank you. So even in the UK, we do have a couple of huge or your sort of well-branded retail shops now trialing this new innovative process where if you go into the shop, you just you pick a scanner yourself in your basket. All you do is you just go around and you scan the items that you are looking to shop. That means at the end of your shop, you don't need to go to the customer service attendant, right? Because you have scanned everything that you want to get, and because you've already signed up with them, your details out. You finish, you just walk out of the shop. You don't need to go and queue up to pay, right? And this you can see even in this COVID time where when you go into the shop, you have to be socially distant. You need to make sure you've got your mask on. It is having a massive effect. So you can see this being rolled out across many shops in the next few years, whereby the services of your customer agents may not be needed anymore. However, you still do need sort of personal shoppers. And we go back to sort of social intelligence. You still will have people who will be your personal shoppers who can support vulnerable people. And so then we are seeing if you are someone watching us who works in these sort of service industries, what are you doing to set yourself apart? Do you understand how to relate to vulnerable people, vulnerable customers, I should put it? Do you know any sign language that you can employ in speaking to customers, right? And can you support someone in a wheelchair? So we are coming back to being able to adjust to this rapidly changing environment. We also seen a lot of ministries boom online, ministries without walls. And so if you're a local church and your means of gathering in support or taking money or finances is by your offerings, with people coming forward to just put money in the offering bowl. During this COVID period, you are actually not going to have any money in your account unless you have been able to develop something where no matter where people are, people can just scan a barcode and be able to give their tithes, give their offering. And so if you do not rapidly adjust and adapt to some of these new technologies happening, and in the UK where many churches are not being able to meet and we are still meeting online in most cases, then that means there's no money coming in to support your operations. You still probably have to pay your rent, although you are not meeting. And so if you do not adjust or leverage, and the beauty of this is most of these technologies, because you have a lot of fintechs coming up, it's easy and much more easier to adapt to this because there is competition within the fintech space. And so it will be very cost effective to have someone come in and build a process where if I'm a pastor and I've got a church, I can just scan a barcode and I can give, right? So these are some of the very simple use cases that I can share.
And just quickly before I come back to Maximus, the shop you described, I was following the value chain, the service delivery value chain until you got to the actual product delivery. Is it delivered to your car? Do you pick it up on your way out? You missed out on something. After scanning the goods. So
there are two services. So if you're a vulnerable customer, then what will happen is you will have a personal shopper who, because you will already register with them, you have a personal shopper who as you scan, will be taking out these items for you and have it sort of delivered to your car. Or if you are sort of able to do it, you just pick the item, you scan. When you finish, you just walk out of the shop because anything that you have scanned will be deducted from your online account with the shop.
So you scan and then you put it in your trolley?
Yeah. Correct.
Great. Okay, I'll come back to you. And for the purpose of our viewers, Ernest is a banker. He's a pastor, and he's also an author. So we're trying to, I'm going to come back to him to talk about the interplay between the various roles he plays and how each aspect of his world is being challenged by these developments. But Maximus,
yes.
He's talking about ordinary day-to-day life being affected by these developments. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's what technology does, disrupts almost every industry. So, for example, I remember doing some discussion on reconstructing the banking sector. So you have MTN mobile money, right? So if you're a teller and what you learned was to smile to people and when they walk into the banking hall so you can count their money and put it in their account. Now the person has a mobile phone. They can send any amount. In terms of the retail banking aspect, they can buy, pay water bill, pay their DSTV, pay whatever services that they've subscribed to using their mobile phone. Now they don't need to walk into the banking hall to do that transaction. Now a time is going to come where the mobile telecom companies. So like the MTNs now being registered as financial institutions. So you have the MTN mobile money being registered. Now they can transact business. So you can move money to somebody's account and then move it from your account, make purchases to somebody who sells by the roadside. Now government has launched the universal QR code. You can just scan QR code without touching anything of the retailer, and you can make your payment on the go. Somebody who even sells roasted plantain by the roadside can collect mobile money, go straight into their wallet, and they don't need to walk to the banking hall for that to be done. And for me, a time is going to come where when banks are moving from the branchless bank to even bankless, because payment is going to be centralized, that the Bank of Ghana may be in charge of just the transaction, and you may not even need a bank, even though they offer other services, so they can focus on those services, but the retail aspect and payment is going to change. Now, when you come to the churches, with the COVID, a pastor can start a church from his house. When he has an audience on his Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel, he can do his church, and then during offertory, he can still use a short code to collect his offering. They can make card payment through his website, or even make payment through a mobile money account to his account, and it's done with church. He can do counseling using the chat system. He can do counseling using video calls to counsel people. He can interact with almost anybody, do even church board meeting, church workers meeting, ushers meeting, whatever you want to do, you can do it digitally. So the church is being virtualized there.
Let me just deal with this last point that you made. Very often when you talk about a time is coming, or it's even now, when things can be done totally branchlessly or without any in-person or physical engagement. The biggest reaction comes from people who are already running an entity with in-person as their base, and thinking, well, if I had known this then, I would have done things differently, but here I am. Address those people. What should they do? Because even using the last example you gave, what should somebody who is already engaging people physically and having a challenge because now there's restrictions, it's not as often as you can do it, you can have as many people as you want, people are even afraid and therefore they don't come as often as they used to. How should institutions, organizations respond to such severe disruption that is staring at them in the face?
So they need to train their workers. So we talked about the social skills. They need to train their workers so that if I'm a front desk person, my front desk is now the WhatsApp account of the bank or the company, that I can go there and respond to inquiries and give people's feedback about the company. If I'm into marketing, should I run the account when it comes to somebody buying our product or subscribing to our services? If I'm a human resource person, we are looking at all the bands of skills that we are supposed to manage virtually and make sure that the receptionist is doing their work virtually, chatting with people. The marketing and sales people are converting, people are making comments and inquiries into people who will buy the product. So you need to virtualize that and then see how, as an organization, your Facebook page can be a virtual version of the organization. So when I come there, what you sell, what you do, what you represent, and then what you stand for is on your page. If I send a chat, somebody must respond so that I know that you are a living organism, not just an account on the page. Those are the things that companies should be thinking. Very soon, you may run maybe your supermarket from a warehouse instead of a shop front, because everything is being sold virtually. People will not walk into your shop to come and buy, but they will go onto your storefront online to buy the product and have it delivered to them in their homes. So there's no physical presence, but they have virtual presence. So you as a company must think about how do we format all the departments into various activities online that can boost the growth of the company. A lot of organizations don't do that, but I think a lot of the workers are used to doing a lot of interactions online already. So their skills needs to be honed to be able to serve the purpose or the interest of the company.
Let me stay with the same report I've been quoting from. 88% of companies believe in the importance of redesigning their work model. That's good news.
Yes.
It means 9 out of 10 companies, even before COVID, were mindful that the work model that they use needs to be continuously redesigned. But let's stay with the report and look at the point of view of staff. 73% of people think that technology can never replace their mind. What do you say to that?
I think they are joking because joking in code, not the insult, but they are underplaying that belief. You know, now if you're a receptionist and you can type 1,000 words per minute, now there are softwares that can just detect 2 and they'll write it for me. So you are not needed, right? If you're a receptionist, that, okay, you need to receive a call and be nice to people. Now there are apps like Google Assistant and the rest that somebody can call a restaurant and the call is automated through the Google Assistant system and it will respond as if it's a human being. And the order the person wants to place will be taken and delivery will be made to that person without any human interference.
But I want us to give people practical
Yes.
takeaway solutions.
Exactly.
So, for instance, with the benefit of Google Maps, maybe dispatch rider services, how can people transform their business model here in Ghana? Let me go to Ernest and ask him my final question. Ernest, Pastor Ernest, Banker Ernest, Author Ernest. Ernest, let's find out. Let's find out from where you sit how these changes are transforming the different roles that you play as an individual. And the demand it places on your skills, because even you at the level at which you play, obviously are having to retool, because very often when we talk about this, people think that those at the bottom of the ladder, those who are the lower earning, struggling people who have to do this. But does it run through the whole spectrum of work? This need for reskilling.
It does. So, especially my role, you with lots of automation happening now, you as the individual need to be able to have the skill set of analyzing the output of that automation. So that is where a lot of cognitive abilities or cognitive skills comes to play. So your ability to actually, make meaning of the outputs of lots of the data, the big data that we have around, especially if you are running services online. How do you identify how many people are engaging, or what is your customer saying? So for me personally, in the 3 facets of my life of being in banking, being a pastor, also being an author, I'm having to actually, day in and day out, try and redesign some of the things that I do. So for now, I don't do counseling by meeting people face to face anymore. I think it even means that I can meet lots more people in a short space of time. So everything is now online. I do have an online calendar that people can see and book slots if they wanted to see me, rather than having to call someone or me having to employ someone to manage my diary. My diary is free, it's online, and therefore, if you wanted to have a meeting with me, I just send you the link, you check an available slot in my diary, you book it, and at that point in time, we can get to speak. And so these are some of the day-to-day things that is changing. And so it will be very interesting if you are in certain roles to have that notion or that mindset that, my role is not going to change. Your role may not change, but your role may require you to be able to do things differently. And if you have not built up that skill set to be able to adjust in this rapidly changing environment, you would have a challenge. And your role might actually be at risk in most instances.
And are you surprised at this, the point I raised with Maximus, the one you just referred to, that Some people are consoling themselves that technology can never replace the human mind. Are you surprised at that kind of positioning?
I am extremely surprised because the report that Albert, you quoted from, some of the roles that we are seeing that will disappear is executive assistant roles. These roles will disappear. And so it's interesting for you to actually, if you are on the front desk of a company, and in the UK, you do have lots of digital banks. You do have many businesses moving their operations from a physical structure to online because it's cost effective, right? Why have shops in Makola when I can just have the shop if I've got a garage at home, that could be my warehouse. Yeah. I don't have to pay. And so if someone can go on my shop front on Instagram, you don't actually, someone can go on your shop front on Instagram, can go on your shop front on Facebook. You don't actually have to spend money developing your own website. You just utilize tools that are already available. So if you have a shop front on Instagram, you can have your warehouse in your garage somewhere at home. Others, there are lots of dispatch riders in Ghana now. You just book one, they come for the product, they deliver it. Now you do have access to maps in Ghana as well. And so it's interesting. And I guess we go back to the example that Maximus gave about Nokia. They didn't do it. They did the right things as per their culture. But that cultural barrier is what now sort of to the point of extinct. You don't see Nokia phones around anymore, right? So we have to actually change our mindset and also ensure there are no cultural barriers in the way we want to do business, because it's happening, it's live, and it's not something that we can ignore in many instances.
It's happening, it's live, it can't be ignored. Thank you very much, Ernest Boadu, for joining us all the way from the UK with your perspectives on the changing world of work. I'm sure we'll do this again, and we'll come back to you for more in the course of this whole discussion about repositioning.
Thank you, and it's been my absolute pleasure.
Wonderful. Maximus, let's wrap up on this. So here we are looking at tools that people are using every day, sometimes for entertainment and fun. Yeah. But he mentioned social media, not Facebook. He mentioned Instagram.
What's up?
So there is Instagram, there's WhatsApp, there is dispatch riders, there is Google Maps. I'm talking about readily available tools that people are using, but not even conscious that these are business enablers. Yeah. Just model a scenario, give me a couple of examples that the ordinary person listening to can have as a trigger in their mind and say, oh, that's it. That will really transform my business completely.
Right. So if I have Max Foods, for example, located maybe at East Legon or in Nima, I can create a Google map.
Maximus Foods?
Yes,
okay.
Maximus Foods.
Okay.
So I'm located at Nima. There's maybe the road network is not that good there, but I can pin my location on Google Map. Now, Google Map gives me the opportunity to also profile my company. So I can put a picture of my house or my shop there, and I can put a list of the product that I sell also on the Google Map. So if I'm selling banku and tilapia, fried fish or fresh fish, or whatever I'm selling at my restaurant, it will be listed also on Google Map. Now, customers can also leave reviews on Google Map for me. So if you come and buy a product, you can leave a review as to how I responded, whether the price is good, the quality is good, and all that. Now, if people search for tilapia, banku and tilapia, or whatever, on the Google Map, I'll be one of the people who the Google will rank within the search results. So either by location or the product. So if somebody wants to buy and they are closer by, I'll be the restaurant that will be suggested to them. So you click on it, now you can find your way to my location. And the nice thing about Google Map is that it's an absolute location platform. So wherever you are located, it's just a 3 meters margin of error. So people can find you right at your location, and then you are good to go. You do the business with them, they buy whatever they want, and they can leave a review on your platform. Now, if you want to extend it to maybe Instagram. You want to reach out to a bigger audience. You have your restaurant account on Instagram. You put pictures of your food and then testimonials for people who eat at your restaurant. And then you have your account listed also on Facebook, well profiled with your location address there. Anybody who wants to find you can still follow the map to your location. And these are free platforms.
Free?
Yes.
Let's end on that one. Let me take you back to where you began.
Yes.
You said there is a movement towards a certain perceived future. That is what is driving all these changes.
Yes.
The perception about where the future is, and therefore movement towards that. Let's talk about the two drivers you started with. You talked about speed, you talked about convenience, and then you ended up with cost.
Yes.
In 1 minute, help our listeners and viewers to appreciate why speed, cost, convenience can all work in your favor if you embrace this new way of working.
Yeah, of course. Speed gives you the advantage to be ahead of competition. So it means that you need to learn skill sets that will always be, ahead of the curve. I always say that you must know more than you need, and you've been needed more than you know, right? So you must always, your level of knowledge has to always be ahead. Now, convenience takes out the pain points. So convenience is that I want to find a particular shoe to buy. Now I can go online, click on it, I can get it. No stress of going through traffic and finding the type that I want, and then having it delivered to me either in my office or at home. That is the convenience. So taking away the pain point. Now the budget, of course, you want to also save money, even though you are buying something that you also value for money is the cost aspect. Now, if you have the skill sets that your company needs, the skill sets gives you the ability to work faster, to offer the convenience that the customers need, so your company can stay profitable, and then for you to also stay relevant. So the company will grow, you also be relevant, and the two of you are going to benefit.
And they call that win-win.
Yeah.
If you adopt these new ways of doing work, the company wins, the individual wins, and the customer is the biggest beneficiary because they get speed, they get convenience, and their cost is reduced and passed on to them. My name is Albert Ocran, and I've been hosting Maximus Ametorgoh, CEO of Pop Out, and then Ernest Boadu, who's a senior banking executive in the UK, helping us to just converse around the new world of work, the ever-changing world of work, and the pressures and tensions that it places on us as we persist in our old ways of doing things. We've ended on the note that, listen, there is profit, there is convenience, there is value in doing things a new way. So the challenge is on us. And the good news is that it wasn't just about retail shops and banks and high street business ventures. We talked about SMEs, we talked about churches, we talked about individuals trying to start something from their garage. And the good news is that everyone can find some space. Next week, we continue this discussion and we bring on the perspectives of Professor Robert Ebohinson and then Eva Richter-Addo. Prof. Hinson is from the University of Ghana Business School. Eva is a group head of HR at Enterprise Group. They will focus more on how to acquire the skills that you actually need and who should be responsible. Is it the individual or the organization for bringing those skills that you need to survive in a world like this? Let me say a big thank you on behalf of Comfort and the crew, and of course, saluting our sponsors, MTN, UMB Bank, the Enterprise Group, and the Graphic Communications Group for supporting Springboard, your virtual university. So we'll come away again next week. My name is Albert Ocran, saying God bless you, and God bless you.